Hello everyone, Revan619 here. I'm going to be the host for this build video, and we are going to be looking at Pasqal, who has received a lot of new talents coming in to his plasma cannon build. Now, whilst Operative itself hasn't been buffed, we are going to be showing off some pretty nutty things. So let's show off an example battle, and then we can jump into the build and really get down with what's going on here. So I have not bought a Psyker. I am just going to be doing the basic buff rotation that you're probably going to use for many builds and setups. And I'm using Cassie here just so I can group up some enemies and show off what we can do. So the first thing we're going to do is we are going to give an extra turn over to Pasqal, and this is so we can set up some praise. We are going to want to pick some high value targets here, so when we kill them we can get some extra turns. And ooh, there's another there. These are some high profile targets. Now ideally we would be able to set Machine Spirit Communion so we could get some exploits on them and we could get a whole bunch of extra buffs, but we do have a little bit of limited AP here. So what I will do to begin with is I'm going to pick who we want to shoot. Now if we can take out this rank 3, that might actually be our best result. So we're going to start by putting on an exploit, and ooh, only 10%. Not the biggest chance to hit there. So what we will do is we'll do an area attack. And we took out pretty much that whole area, so we'll finish him off with a Claim the Bounty. Look at some of the damage that we are seeing here. We managed to get a refund on some of the AP there, and we are going to go for some overpen. Very nice. What we will do is, because we managed to generate enough for a finest hour here, we're not quite in the best distance to be able to set this on. But we do want to be applying as much of the Machine Spirit Communion as we can. We're then going to move back over to Pasqal here. He is going to be able to set himself up, and we're going to try a nice bit of damage increase here. So let's see what this new overcharge protocol is going to do. And because of they've reworked the way overheat works, as you can see, that first shot without degrade defense doing 1000 damage, pretty damn tasty, pretty damn tasty. As you can see, we can build up quite a bit of damage here. Just woof. Some pretty good numbers. I think we only have one target here. Oof. And with some of the new talent stuff for Plasma here, we can try to hit an area attack. Oof. Just evaporating everything. I'm Revan619. We're going to cover some of the Bounty Hunter, and we're going to talk about all those little buffs and things that we had in play here. So let's talk about our boy in 1.5. Like I said previously, Operative received no buffs, which is very disappointing to hear. However, what it did receive was a bunch of new talents for both arc rifles and for plasma cannons. Now, I still built Pasqal into a plasma cannon build because you don't get reload reduction for arc rifles until you get to the Skitarii armor in Act 4, and I felt like only having 3 shots until Act 4, especially with the new rate of attacks that you can get for both those weapons, not to be the best. So before we get into the build, I think it's going to be important to show off the new plasma talents and explain how they work. As you can see here, this is the end game version of what Pasqal looks like. I personally go for Voidsman Armor because I feel like you get the most. Solomon, you're going to want to recruit to be able to get the Synaptic Coagulator. And the other items, they're going to be a little bit down to you. Personally, I like the long range aim lens because once you go over to the maximum range of plasma cannons, your bliss skill gets cut in half. So you can very easily miss enemies because it can be 8 to 10 cells. And at that range, chances are you're going to struggle to do it. However, it is very useful when you get for the Data Tether Mask, but unfortunately it's the end of Act 4, so you only really see this in Act 5, and that can really boost the base damage. Base damage is very important for plasma cannons because as a bounty hunter you get so much armor penetration, and as an operative so much armor strip, you don't really need the armor penetration itself. Having more base damage is going to get a lot more mileage out of you. So let's show off what these new plasma talents are, and as always this will be on the spreadsheet for those of you who want to jump ahead and just get a quick little look in there. So Plasma Bank is one of the first ones and is absolutely amazing to begin with. Reloading a plasma rifle costs 3 AP less, and reloading a plasma pistol costs 1 AP less. That 3 AP less essentially can make these free, which is incredibly useful for making them well, a lot more usable, because when you reload, losing 3 AP could be a lot. Now, you might be thinking, well, why would just being able to reload help? Well, let's have a look at some of these other ones. External Power Block. This character gains an additional attack with a plasma weapon in the first round of combat, and when reloading a plasma weapon for the first time in each following round. So having 3 AP reloads, you just get 2 attacks. It's increased your attack economy by 1. In the early game for Operative, this is huge because Operative doesn't generate additional attacks. So that's already doubled your attack economy for Act 1. Enhanced Splash Area. The Plasma Overcharge area attack is increased by an additional cell on each side of it, on all axis verticals. You saw me use it previously. It not always the best, and can sometimes be hard to actually land stuff, but it is very good, and it is something I recommend. They've also reworked the way that Plasma Overcharge works. It actually now gives you stacks of overheat, which can give you additional damage, but you can still explode and possibly kill yourself. So they've added another talent for that, which is Safe Training. The character only suffers 25% of the damage dealt by Plasma Explosion. The damage bonus from each stack of Plasma Cell overheat is increased by 5%. So here's what the new Plasma Cannon mechanic does. Using Overcharge attack with Plasma Weapon gains 25 times number of Plasma Cell overheating stacks, chance, cannot be more than 100%, of causing a Plasma Explosion. Each stack of this effect increases the damage of Plasma Overcharge by 5%, and Plasma Overcharge extra damage by 15%, and Plasma Explosion by 10%. The start of the wielders, non-extra turns, -1 stack is removed. So the Plasma Explosions can hurt. Each creature in 1 cell radius around the wielder suffers energy damage equal to the Plasma Weapon damage, using the weapon's armor penetration. So that can suck. The wielder suffers 2 times this damage with 2 times the armor penetration. When the explosion occurs, all stacks of Plasma Cell are being removed. So yeah, safety training. Kind of important. What else did we get in here? We got Piercing Charge. Plasma Overcharge extra damage ignores 9 of the target's deflection. However, as an operative, we don't need this one because we just ignore deflection anyway. Some of these other ones are going to be for the arc rifles, and the fact that arc rifles got ones that, yes, arc rifle and its buff to now only be 1 AP is going to be very viable. And Pasqal now comes with an arc rifle when you meet him in Act 5, so there is the opportunity to build in for that. But let's actually look at this build. The other thing actually I should mention just before we get onto the build is he did get a new talent, which is Pulse Amplifier. Pasqal's arc rifle shots gain 21% dodge reduction against primary and secondary targets. So yes, arc rifles is very possible. If you want to build into arc rifle instead of plasma, I do highly recommend it, but for the rest of the build, you can kind of follow what I've done here. Now, the actual main mechanic around Operatives works with Analyze Enemies. At the start of each turn, the Operative inflicts 1 stack of the exploit effect on all enemies in the Operative's line of sight. If the Operative hits a target with an exploit stack, the attack deals 5 times perception bonus % more damage. The damage is also increased by 10% for each exploit on the target. The attack removes all exploits from the targets. You also get the ability Analyze Enemies, which if we bring that one up, does it actually explain how many stacks it adds? It doesn't seem to. Interesting. However, one other thing to note whilst we are here is Pasqal still does not have his Forge for a purpose. He doesn't have his Forge for a purpose, so he doesn't have substance armor, he doesn't have locomotive systems, he doesn't have analytic systems. They still have forgotten to give him this. Unfortunate. I've reported it so many times, but the developers are still just don't seem to get around to actually doing something about that. But there's no time to complain because the buffs to Pasqal are actually pretty damn good. So I go with tech use. He does start off with 1 point tech use. He has the exposed weakness, which I explained in the Idris video, which the Operative removes all exploits from the target, decreasing the target's dodge, parry, and armor by 15 plus exploits removed times perception bonus divided by 3% chance till the Operative's next turn. So it makes very good for hitting Drukhari, it makes very good for armor stripping, it stops enemies parrying you, and that also gets into effect arc militant damage talents. Dismantling attack is a heroic action. The Operative immediately inflicts 1 exploit on each enemy in combat, then makes a free attack against the target, can even use ranged weapons in melee range. This attack always hits. Until the end of combat, the target of this attack suffers 30% penalty to armor, block, dodge, and parry. He also comes with passive learning. On their first turn in combat, the Operative randomly distributes the same number of exploits as when using Analyze Enemies among all enemies in a 10 cell radius around the Operative. I wonder if this one will actually tell you how many times it stacks. There we go! The Operative targets 1 enemy in the line of sight. That target immediately gains 1 plus intelligence bonus divided by 2 exploits. There it is. It was weird trying to find where that was in the menu. I can understand why some people have a bit of a skill issue trying to find that, because I did too. Building into Blister skill first and then scan and machine right. The reason for this is more Blister skill, more chance to hit, and X chance to hit turns into crit chance. Scan and machine right, in addition to servo skulls connect directly to the tech priest systems, increases their perception by 10. This lowers enemy dodge, increases our initiative, and it also works with some of our talents as you've seen previously. Uncanny Sight will allow us to apply exploits even to enemies that we can't see in our line of sight. However, this is only on main turns. It does not apply to Finest Hour or Bring It Down, which is very unfortunate and one of the reasons that Optive is held back. More Intelligence. This is a main stat for Pasqal and will work with a lot of his talents. First ability I pick up is Joint Analysis. Until the Optive's next turn, their allies' attacks also remove exploits and deal intelligence bonus more damage. More tech use, because that's going to be important. Tide of Excellence, however, when the Optive triggers an exploit on the enemy, the Optive gains +1 damage and 2% armor penetration until the end of combat. Only applies to the first strike or projectile on a burst attack. Stacks. Now, with some psycho abilities and arc rifles, if you hit multiple enemies with exploits, you will gain multiple instances of Tide of Excellence. I don't know if area attacks will trigger this. I don't believe so. I believe area attacks will only trigger one exploit. And overpenetration, I haven't tested if the overpenetration shot will also remove exploits and also gain its bonus. I will have to double check, but I don't believe it does. Aiming protocols, Pasqal gets increased ballistic skill, which is quite nice, and 19% dodge reduction with plasma and melter weapon ranged attacks. That first half, the +14 ballistic skill always applies, and that is going to be based on 5+ intelligence bonus. Dismantling attack upgrade 3 is the first one I get. Weapon skill and ballistic skill are also lowered by 30 until the end of combat. Very good crippling bosses. We take Medicae, so Pasqal can use some of his AP to heal allies because he'll be at the back. We get some logic because we want the logic and tech use skills to be covered. It is very important to have these for progression and opening chests. More perception, we take ballistics calculations, which is one of the few Optive damage talents. The Optive attacks target affected by their exploit from a distance of 6 more cells. That attack gains 50% damage. Notice you need exploits and range limitations. This is why Optive is probably the worst archetype in the game, is that it has so many restrictions around a mechanic that's just never online. It's very, very unfortunate. We get some more logic. Perfect spot in here. The Optive gains 25% cover efficiency if in cover, 15% +15 perception, +15 ballistic skill, and it basically lasts till the Optive moves, and it can only be used once per turn. Honestly, it'd be better if you could always pop that on. Some of the restrictions as well, like on Sharpshooter, is you can't move at all. Again, too many restrictions that don't apply to other classes. We then, at rank 12, get External Power Block. The character gains an additional attack with plasma weapons in the first round of combat, and when reloading a plasma weapon for the first time in each subsequent round. This is going to be around the time that you find your first plasma pistol, so this is about the time that I get it. We pick up Sniper Expertise. Per spot additionally gains the Optive's 40% arm penetration against enemies that are 7 cells away or further, so that's very good to get our damage up. That's going to be more than their 14% damage increase, and that's actually going to be based on perception bonus. More perception, gets more intelligence, then we get Plasma Bank. Plasma Bank is going to be very important because early on you're going to be using multiple rounds in combat and lowering the reload cost so you can keep reloading and keep shooting. Very useful for Pasqal. And finally, we end up with Dismantling Attack 3. So targets in a 5-cell radius around the target, reducing their dodge and armor by 15% till the end of combat. So this is going to help with some of our abilities. But Bounty Hunter's Heroic is now working, so we do get chances to use that. This is an encounter some people can struggle with because you have the Defiler here that has some very, very high stats. However, Optives are ideal for kind of working their way through this. So if I just throw on the usual buffs that you would in an encounter like this be using, as well as getting on this backline here for Pasqal, if we move our lovely lady up into the correct position, and if you have, like I said, have a look at that armor, that's 274%, so that's something pretty high. So if we use Grenadier to throw an Iron Grenade, we can cut that in half, but again, that is still quite high and something that can be tricky to deal with. But if we then throw on Zone of Fear, we then have another armored reduction from Cassia. However, with that deflection and that armor, that's still not going to be enough for our allies to get through it. So what do we do in this situation? Well, if I pass over a turn to Pasqal, who I then add on Analyze Enemies and then follow up with Expose Weakness, we can drop that armor down to about 32%, and that deflection of 49 adds an operative. Because we have over 100 perception, one of our talents is actually going to allow us to ignore that armor. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to set up some little bit of praise going on here. We've got some up there, and I will set one up here as well. So we will use the fact that we get 2 attacks here. So I'm going to take one there, pretty nice. We've got some AP. I'm going to use Piercing Shot as well as Cole the Bold. Somehow we missed at 95%. But as you can see anyway, the enemy has had his armor drop down to 0. So we've got obviously Sundered Armor from that Iron Eye Grenade. Damned Seal Soul's got 6%. Exposed Weakness at another 50%. Pierce the Armor and Pierce and Ruin, 21 and 16. That is a lot of armor reduction that is currently in play here. I am going to be a little bit cheeky and use some more AP here because I want to gain a kill with Pasqal. So we managed to get a single shot off there, which then Death Dealer followed up, and because we got a decent kill and it hit and refreshed, we managed to get another attack back. So I'm going to use Pasqal's area attack to hit these 2 chaps up here. We're seeing some pretty nice damage coming in here. Now, if we pick a cultist that we maybe want to get another little kill on, so I'm going to pick one here to trail. And if we can try and get a kill on that, it will actually give Pasqal another extra turn. The Filer's going to move and run, try and take some shots at Pasqal. And then we've got Jay into play here. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to use Jay to relocate Pasqal so he can continue shooting at this Defiler. So I'm going to pop on some buffs here because I'm just trying to build some momentum.
This battlefield air is good for my lungs.
And that's going to give us enough to go with a final sour turnover back to Pasqal. And then we're going to try a nice big damaging shot on this boss here. What will we do? 1100, pretty decent. We shoot again. 700. 800. He managed to heal through that one. That is because of his ability, but as you can see, we are building up some very good damage. 1400 going on there. That enemy's been taken out, and that essentially wins the encounter for us. Pop off a little area shot down there, pop off those 2 guys, and we're going to finish off the last Skitarii here. I've not actually explained the new overheat mechanic, and I will go into what the stacks of that does and how that works, because it's quite an interesting new mechanic that we've had applied to us. There it is, beautiful. Because of the limitations on Assassin, I don't think Assassin is a very good archetype, and I've not seen convincing arguments for it otherwise. The only useful Assassin build I've ever seen is a Warrior Assassin using Rock Swords, or even a Blade Dancer Assassin that has a secondary Rock Sword to pull out for Killing Edge to get the multiple burst hits on it. It has a lot of restrictions. Like exploits don't apply on extra terms, assassin openings also don't apply on extra turns, and then with operative you also have a lot of your mechanics not working unless enemies have exploits on it. So why would I take 2 archetypes that have turn restricted issues which stop most of the kit from working? Because of that, Bounty Hunter is the one to go for, but Bounty Hunter has higher natural damage anyway. It has more armor penetration, which is more damage, has more attack economy, which is more damage, it has higher damage enhancers, which again more damage, and it can refund AP. So we're going to go into some of this and talk about some of the mechanics, and they've now finally fixed the heroic action, which is very nice to see. Hunt down the prey. The bounty hunter marks any enemy in combat as prey. Whenever the bounty hunter kills a target marked as prey, they gain a stackable bonus until the end of combat. This bonus depends on the enemy's difficulty tier, the Roman number on the enemy's icon. 1 to 2 will give 25% of the bounty hunter's maximum wounds as temporary wounds. 3 to 4, 5 times the prey's difficulty tier critical damage, and 2 times the prey's difficulty tier critical hit chance till the end of combat. And 5 and above is both of these. You start with 3 targets that you can mark. The first thing you're going to take is Claim the Bounty. What Claim the Bounty does is it gives you another attack, which is obviously very good because we're going to take a talent with Pasqal called Overcharge Protocols, which per number of attack will increase our damage, and it is one of our biggest damage increases for a plasma build. The Bounty Hunter makes a free single attack with a selected weapon. This attack always hits, does not end the Bounty Hunter's movement, but deals only 68% of the Bounty Hunter's usual damage. This is based on 4 plus Bliss skill plus Perception bonus. With buffs, this will do more than 100% base damage, so this actually eventually becomes very strong. After each third enemy kill by Claim the Bounty Hunter recovers +1 charge of Hunt down the prey. If Claim the Bounty kills a target marked as prey, the bounty hunter receives 2 AP. You'll see that come into play a lot. After Claim the Bounty, we take Hunter's Ambush. When the bounty hunter performs a single shot attack on an immobilized or stunned target, this attack immediately refunds the cost and does not count to the attack limit once per round. So that's very useful for a soldier bounty hunter, and it's also, especially of an arbiter's, and it's also very good here. There is a helm called Self-Calibrating Goggles and Self-Calibrating Helmet, which single shots will actually stun enemies. So by using Hunter's Ambush, if you attack the same guy twice, it will actually refund your second attack and give you back the AP. So your second attack, you could even use an increased attack charge there. So that's quite useful. Very useful, in fact. We then get Wild Hunt. The bounty hunter simultaneously makes several attacks. The number of the attacks equal to the number of prey in combat. These attacks are equally divided amongst all prey in the bounty hunter's line of sight. This attack always hits and always scores critical hits. So that's pretty big. We then get a AP increase, ballistic increase, and then we get overcharge protocols. Each time Pasqal uses a plasma or melt weapon, his damage with those weapons increases by 14%, which is 5+ int bonus, stacks. If Pasqal does not shoot for 1 round, he loses all stacks. So as long as you're shooting, this will build up, and with that reduced AP cost, we're always shooting. We'll then get ballistic skill, and then hunting surge. Hunting surge is a big one. Whenever the enemy is killed by a critical hit scored by the bounty hunter or their ally, the bounty hunter gains 2 times the enemy's difficulty tier percentage damage for 2 rounds. So you can stack up some nice damage there. We then get Cole the Bold. The bounty hunter's next attack this turn will have additional effects. Plus an additional ballistic skill based damage. The target's armor will be reduced by 3 times the target's difficulty tier against all the bounty hunter's attacks till the end of combat. If the target's armor against this attack is below 20%, the target's dodge is also reduced against all the bounty hunter's attacks of combat. Additional damage of the bounty hunter's attack is increased to plus 17, which is the ballistic skill plus whatever's higher, perception or int. If the target of the attack is also marked as prey, its armor and dodge are also reduced against the attacks of the bounty hunter's allies. We then get Flay the Bold. Cole the Bold additionally removes the target's difficulty tier, deflection, willpower, and toughness from the target, so it's very good at lowering them things there. We'll get small tech use, intelligence, and then we pick safety training, because we are going to be using those overcharged attacks. You don't normally use it in final style, but during main turns you will because of the lower attack economy, so having safety training stops you exploding yourself and allies. But then this is the most important one here, and if you're not taking this in your bounty hunter build, you're building a bounty hunter wrong, which is heightened concentration. Whenever the bounty hunter scores a critical hit, they gain perception armor penetration until the end of combat, and that stacks. Once that hits 100%, your damage with degraded defense is going to be exquisite. This is pretty much degraded defense, but for bounty hunters going the other way. We then get some tech use, we get some intelligence, and then we get Wild Hunt upgrade 2. The bounty hunter gains plus 3 MP and restores 3 charges of Hunt down the prey after using Wild Hunt. We then get Save the Kill. When a prey that is not being trailed, is killed by an ally, the bounty hunter gains an extra turn with half their MP and AP. The bounty hunter cannot attack during this extra turn. This is useful because you can set up analyze their enemies, exploit weakness, and even joint analysis to help support your team, so you become a damage and support archetype this way. More logic, more perception. Then we get filtering protocols. When Pasqal uses the plasma melter weapons the first time around, he gets plus 1 AP. We then get Hot on the Trail. This is also a fantastic ability to increase our amount of turns. The bounty hunter designates an enemy in a 10-cell radius as trailed and finishes its turn. If an ally kills a trailed enemy, the bounty hunter gains an extra turn after that ally's turn, with AP and MP remaining from the moment the bounty hunter uses Hot on the Trail. The bounty hunter gains an additional 2 plus the target's difficulty tier MP. The cooldown for Hot on the Trail is reset. When Hot on the Trail is used for a 3rd time during the combat, the bounty hunter receives plus 1 charge of Hunt down the prey. Only a single enemy can be trailed at a time, and that's even if you have multiple ones, it can't increase. But then you get Trail and Shatter. Hot on the Trail is now unlimited range and reduces the target's armor by 27% for 2 rounds, 3 times perception bonus. So that's pretty good for debuffing as well. We then get some more perception, more logic, and then Expert Finesse. This one can be a bit janky. It doesn't always work, but it's pretty good when it does. When the bounty hunter kills an enemy whose difficulty tier is 4 or higher, the bounty hunter immediately reloads their weapon and attacks the closest enemy in their line of sight. This attack gains 50% over penetration, but only deals ballistic score and perception bonus to the bounty hunter's usual damage. Again, that can stack above base 100%. We then get Pinnacle of Weaponry. The first attack in combat of any plasma melter or power weapon deals an additional damage equal to, I believe that's intelligence bonus. Yep. For the remainder of the combat, this bonus is decreased to half of the intelligence bonus. So that's pretty big. And then we finish up with Wild Hunt upgrade 3. When the bounty hunter attacks exactly one target which is marked as prey, the wild hunt, this attack deals 300% more damage. That's also pretty big. So as you can see, bounty hunter is going to start racking up damage and attack economy, which perfectly builds into what we're trying to do with these plasma weapons, to keep getting more attacks to build up these overcharge protocols. Well, it's not being covered in today's video. I did want to go over a little bit of the arc rifle build for Pasqal, because arc rifles are very competitive and very viable. If anything, it's actually a really fun playstyle to use. So because of that, I just wanted to show it off a little bit, even though it isn't going to be what I was covering in today's video. So even on a bounty hunter, this is an incredibly good build and something that can be done quite well, and especially if you have encounters like this where you have higher tier enemies, to really take advantage of getting the best out of your abilities from your arc rifle. So one of the things I'm going to do here is we're just going to look to generate some extra goodies. So one first thing I'm going to do is I'm actually going to use this stim so I can get in some more extra stuff, and then we're going to show some of the attack refunding that we can get because we've got this all on here, and because everyone's now got an exploit, we're going to actually channel some tides here. So really good damage that will jump between all these enemies here. And what you're going to notice in a lot of these things is enemy defenses are actually being ignored, and you're going to build up some really good stacks of Tide of Excellence. More importantly, because you hit multiple enemies, it returns your attacks, and multiple charges will also be able to refund a lot of your stuff that's going in here. So if I take another shot here, build up some very nice instances of damage, and we'll even be able to then take off another Claim the Bounty. So yeah, we're refunding a lot of AP and even generating movement, and you're just clearing packs of enemies, and it is, like I said, something that's quite decent and quite effective to do. Now, we could even finish off Tazera here, but I want to try and do that with someone else, if at all possible, other than Cassia. Okay, they arc rifles don't overpin, but like I said, they can do quite a bit of nice damage. Anyone that I can finish to potentially get a little bit of resolve. Ah, perfect. That's going to be good enough to go back to Pasqal to give him some extra attacks. So we can really pump up the damage here. And we're going to claim the bounty on this one. Beautiful. That's going to refund us some nice costs. And yeah, with the way that it jumps, you can generate quite a bit of attacks. Now, sometimes you've got Claim the Bounty coming back, and I swear that has to be a glitch, because it missed the initial target, which Claim Bounty is not meant to be able to miss. But notice it missed and then took out the rest of them. This might be something for the devs to actually have a look at. But yes, when you then set up to actually return and claim some of these hits, like I said, you're going to be getting some really good stuff out of it. You just got to really pick where you're going to be shooting, because naturally the high AP cost of 2 to reload, unless you've got the item to reduce the cost of reload, yeah, that is going to be quite quite the ordeal to be dealing with. But yeah, we noticed we refunded it. We've still got more attack actions to go, but the main issue here is we've actually run out of AP. So I'm going to set a target that we can use to kill to come back, and we'll just have to use some of the AP costs to reload for Pasqal. But like I was just saying there, you are getting a lot out of the arc rifles, and they are very, very fun to use. Like I said, the main downside is going to be the high AP cost. You can use items like Metronome, because at the end of the day, you don't really need to be moving that much. So from a Bring It Down, you can actually pop that up. Same with the Bead of Concentration. It's not until you get his Skitari armor in Act 4 that you'll be able to get those reload costs down, or Portative Manipulator. It will lower it from a 3 to a 2, but that is still quite high. The reason Plasma's so good is you can have 0 AP reload costs. Exemplar is when we get into some big boy levels and we get some nice little talents. As always, I start with Eager for Battle to give +2 additional action points in the first turn of combat. You can just swap that straight for Degraded Defense if you feel like you don't want to take Eager for Battle first. We then get Fresh Target. When the operative attacks an enemy that is at full wounds, that attack deals 9% more damage to that enemy, and that is going to be based on 10+ perception bonus. Rank 2, we get tech use and then share the spoils. Whenever an ally kills a prey, the bounty hunter gains half the bonuses granted by hunt down the prey. So this stops it from being wasted. We then get Bliss skill. Grenadier, as always, we want for Act 3 for all ranged allies, because it's the only way that they can confidently armor strip. And because operatives don't get exploits next turn, this is very useful for keeping them in. I then take Tactical Knowledge. The operative removes one exploit from each enemy in a 5-cell radius around the point within 10 cells from the operative. If there is only one enemy in the area, the operative removes all exploits stacks from that enemy. All allies gain exploits remove percentage armor until the end of combat. If 4 or more exploits are removed, the operative deals 2 times exploits removed more damage until the end of combat. The armor part of that stacks, the damage to the operative does not. It will only take the highest single instance, whereas continual use of this will keep stacking up allied armor. This can be very useful in the early game. Some people like to take that in the early game. I still prefer joint analysis. We then get some more tech use, pick up Degrade Defense as it is the biggest damage increase in the game, and then we get Inspiring Trophy. When the bounty hunter kills a prey whose difficulty tier is 4 or higher, the bounty hunter gains an additional 2 AP. There is not enough tier 4 or higher enemies in combat, so that is one bit of suggestion I will give to Owlcat. We need higher tier enemies for unfair. Give us higher enemies. I'd say lock difficulty so it can't be changed during a run. And if you start on unfair, I want to see more tier 4 or higher enemies. We then get some more ballistic skill. Improved tactics. Tactical knowledge requires 3 exploits instead of 4 for the damage part, and increases the operative's damage by an additional 14% once that threshold is hit. Again, that's going to be 5 plus intelligence bonus. That's pretty nice. We then get Piercing Shot. The bounty hunter's next attack during this turn will have 100% over penetration and plus 18% armor penetration. Prey, the attack always hits. A target marked as prey will always critical hit. If the attack hits and it's prey, it'll be a critical. I said that wrong. More intelligence. Pierce and Ruin. Each enemy affected by Piercing Shot has their armor reduced by 8% until the end of combat, which I believe is going to be perception bonus again. No, ballistic skill. There we go. Intelligence, Pierce and Ruin is another big upgrade. Pinch also, we just went over that. Enhanced splash area. The area of plasma overcharge is increased by an additional cell on every point. It doesn't create a nice big square, but it gets some little extra points going on there. Logic, Death Dealer is one you'll get a lot of mileage out. You want to be getting as much extra AP attacks as you can because, well, like I said, kills on certain tiers of enemy will refund AP, but more attacks will give you more increased damage with your overcharge protocols. And because reloads are free, it doesn't matter if you burn through that. AP increase is very nice. Combat Insight is pretty huge here. If the optive's perception bonus is 10 or higher, they gain 1 AP and ignore enemy's deflection. We then get some logic. Sharpshooter can be a bit hit or miss. If the operative has not moved this turn, they deal +4 damage with single shot attacks for every 5 cells between them and the target. They also get 9 ballistic skill. The bonuses do not stack and last until the operative moves. Like I said, too many restrictions on operative talents. So many operative talents need to be squished into one talent and not have such restrictions, because no other archetype does. We then get some awareness, because late game, and this is going to help build up one of the items that I like to put in Pasqal. Pierce the armor comes in next. Whenever the bounty hunter scores a critical hit, the target's armor is reduced by 8 plus the target's difficulty tier until the end of combat. This stacks. Some more intelligence, more perception, more awareness. We then get Deadly Aim, because this can be like a nice 20% increase to damage here. If the character's dodge reduction is higher than the enemy's dodge before applying heavy, medium, or arm penalty, the character's damage against that enemy is increased by plus 1% for every 5% difference. If you want to take a different talent here, feel free to do so. It's whatever you feel comfortable with. I like this one for just getting that 20% damage increase. Exposed Weakness also reduces the enemy's toughness and willpower by 27 for 1 round. Very good for crippling the end boss, and it's why I take that one late. And then we also get Gruesome Kill. Whenever a prey is killed, all enemies in 10 cell radius around the prey have their agility reduced by 5 times the prey's difficulty tier. This is one that people would prefer to take earlier, but I find there's nothing that I would rather take. Awareness, comprehensive analysis. A comprehensive analysis, if the analyzed enemies has 2 or more exploits, target suffers an extra exploits. That's pretty nice, but it can be hard to get that on unless you're using other talents. Machine Spirit Scan Communion applies 1 stack of exploits on all affected enemies, and that's how we get that X plus 1, so it's why we take them together. Precise Attack then comes in for the next attack against a target affected by an exploit. That target's cover efficiency and block will be reduced by 15 plus 9 divided by 3 times stacks of exploit. This attack will have extra hit chance. Like I said, again, this only works on enemies with exploits on it. So again, doesn't work on extra turns. Please, Owlcat, please. Wolf Perception, and then I get Extermination. Any damage the character deals is increased by +1 for every attack they have made this combat. Does not affect damage over time, effects, bleed, burn, toxin. You could take Extermination before Deadly Aim and then take this the other way around, or you could take Cataclysm, whichever you're happy with. But then we get Insightful Precision. Precise attack grants the operative bonus to perception equal to the number of exploits removed divided by 2, minimum 1 until the end of combat. So again, so many mechanics that don't work without the exploits, and the exploits don't work on extra turns. However, we still are going to be pumping out a lot of damage with this build. As I said, one of the most important items that you can start off with here is Self-Calibrating Helm or Self-Calibrating Goggles. The wearer successful single attacks inflict stun on the target for 1 round. If the target fails a willpower resistant test with a -5 penalty. The wearer attacks a stunned enemy, the nearest enemy becomes stunned as well. So these are ways that you can set up getting refunded attack economy, which is pretty nice. You then got Synaptic Coagulator. The wearer gains 15 intelligence at the start of their turn. They suffer 1 direct damage. That does unfortunately inflict degraded defense on yourself, so be very careful. You can get yourself 1 shot. U-Tuning Combi Tool. The item grants the owner 25% to tech, plus 25 to tech use. If the owner has medium or heavy armor equipped at the start of their first turn in combat, they gain 21 armor. It's just nice to get the tech use. That's why I've got that on. You can put on another item there like Bead of Might or whatever have you for more damage, but I find long range aim limbs is very important, like I said, to get the range up. High Volt Origin Voiceman Armor gives you extra armor against human enemies, but a lot more perception. So the extra human armor you won't see unless you go down a specific path in the end game, because humans is all humans, Xenos is all non-humans, so it's very cut and dry with that. But the perception is huge because obviously we get closer to getting that 100. Overcharge gloves are very good. Whenever the wearer uses overcharge on a plasma weapon, that attack ignores enemy deflection and deals 36% additional damage. The additional damage is very nice. If not, plasma shaped gloves are a good option here. Not many good backpacks going here. I've got Shadow Guide Cloak on here. The wearer becomes least priority target as long as they have no enemies and tiles adjacent. However, I noticed it in 1.5, and this might be a bug, but Pasqal can now equip the Von Valancius Cloak. Don't know if that's intentional. Because I don't think he could do that in 1.4 and before, and I don't think anyone else could, and it seems that no one has restrictions, so anyone can put that on. If that's always been that way, then okay, but this is actually a fairly decent cloak. It's getting +5 everywhere. It's very useful for Pasqal because it boosts a lot of his stuff, and yeah, there's not many good alternatives, like the Grenadier or Bleeding Backpack. They don't really provide anything to him. And lastly, Sharpshooter Boots. This is why we were building up awareness. When the wearer performs a single shot, a ranged attack from any cover, this attack gains armor penetration, 33%, and it's going to be based on your awareness divided by 4. So that is pretty tasty getting that on there. But that will sort of complete the armor here. So let's look at some of the other options that we have with this build. This build is lovingly referred to as my Plasma Artillery Battery. As I said before, if you wanted to go arc rifles, you could very much do the same build with arc rifles. You just swap over like Plasma Bank, External Power Block, Safety Training, and later on Enhanced Splashed Area, and you pick up the arc rifle talents. There are ones that will increase your attack economy. There are ones that will make allies immune to your stuff. There are ones that when you hit up to 10 enemies from each shot, you'll actually refund an attack, and there'll be other little things like that. They'll increase the range of where it will jump as well. So these are some very useful talents that you can pick up here. If you want to go for that, then go for that, but you're also going to want to drop overcharge protocols because obviously that does not apply to arc rifles, but arc rifles are very strong, so I do highly recommend them. When it comes to Eager of Battle, if you want to put in Degraded Defense earlier, that's absolutely fine, and if you want to put in Extermination earlier, that's also fine, and if you wanted to swap Deadly Aim for Vital Points, again, absolutely fine. So feel free to move these around. I actually think having Extermination here and then Vital Points will actually do more damage because of the extra crit damage being applied there. So good chance that that's actually probably the more meta way to pick it, but this is just sort of how I like to build it. If you wanted to go Assassin is also very good, both with Plasma and Arc Rifle. But because exploits don't apply on extra turns, openings don't apply on extra turns, it's practically a useless arch type setup. Until they buff that, you're probably not really going to want to use that all this much. But those are sort of the two best builds for it. There is no reason to go Grand Strategist here. It just doesn't do as much. Yes, you can get one exploit in for everyone by having Grand Strategist, but it just feels like a weaker build overall. I know it's very popular. Some people really, really, really love using Missionary O. I think it's hot trash. I don't think it's a good build. I don't think people who go for that have actually invested into understanding a lot of what you can build. But at the same time, I'm not here to play your game for you. If you want to do that, you do that. I'm Rem619. I've brought to you some more builds. I hope you're having fun with the game. And yes, I am very, very pleased with Pasqal. He's actually become a mainstay in the party with these changes. On the live stream, I might build it into arc rifles, just try something different. But the plasma version, absolutely fantastic. I love it. I love to Pasqal. And yeah, till next time, Revan out. Have a good one, everyone.